debt, inflation, internal conflicts, and China on the rise. What does the billionaire have to say about the start of the financial collapse? For Ray Dalio, what's happening in the world is not a recession, it's a financial collapse. But you haven't realized it yet, or at least you weren't aware. The billionaire investor had been warning for some time about a global and economic crisis, advising investors not to keep money in cash. He believes it is not safe, as inflation is real and erodes purchasing power. During an interview with the North American network CNBC, in November 2021, Dalio shared his perspective on trying to time the market. He also spoke about the dollar, interest rates, inflation, financial crisis, and how China's rise represents serious threats to American prosperity. Ray Dalio predicted a new change in the global order in his book, Principles for the Orderly World in Transition, Because Nations Prosper and Fail, released at the end of 2021. In it, the founder and manager of the world's largest hedge fund, Bright Ether Associates, conducts an analysis of the troubled economy and world history. Ray Dalio is concerned about the direction of the American empire and the foundations of the world economy, which may collapse in the near future, causing a major global economic crisis. During the interview, the billionaire said that trying to time the market becomes a fool's journey because of the unpredictable nature of things. He also argued that investors should not own cash. Instead, they should invest in assets with greater potential for appreciation, as inflation will erode their purchasing power. Timing the market is a fool's journey. Ray Dalio believes it is a mistake to move your portfolio in and out of the stock market, in an attempt to buy low and sell high. Trying to time the market becomes a fool's journey. Saying that here is the stock market, and I am going to guess the right moment to enter and leave the stock market. Do you know what that means? Will you guess what the next move is, the next variant, and what the next other thing is? Many things depend on many other things, says Dalio. Instead of trying to accept the market timing, Dalio says that the most important thing is for investors to understand two things. Money is not a safe investment. It is not a safe place because it will be taxed by inflation. There will not be an interest rate that compensates anywhere. Although it seems good because it is not volatile, you are paying the tax of a few % per year on it. So stay away, he concludes. Knowing how to balance the portfolio is crucial. As you can't predict the market, Dalio suggested creating a balanced portfolio for all climates. The all-weather strategy was created by Brightwater in 1996. Originally to invest Ray Dalio's personal assets. In it, you must ask yourself, what type of portfolio would you have to achieve good results, regardless of the economic scenario? The answer is, a global and diversified portfolio, designed to be indifferent to changes in economic and market conditions. According to him, knowing how to balance investments will reduce risk and provide a better return than trying to aggressively trade in short-term movements. The most important thing is to be in a safe and well-balanced portfolio. You can reduce your risk without reducing your return. Even if you are a great investor, things happening can change the world. This also changes prices in markets, bonds, debts, and inflation. Dalio has also raised concerns about inflation and the US debt. He has even stated that owning bonds is stupid in the midst of money printing. To explain, he goes back to basics, saying that when a currency becomes a reserve currency, it gives the country the privilege to borrow and create debt money. To explain, he goes back to basics, saying that when a currency becomes a reserve currency, it gives the country the privilege to borrow and create debt and money. Additionally, it gives the nation power, referring to the dollar currently seen as a reserve currency. However, throughout history, currencies are always devalued or destroyed, and in this cycle, when it becomes unattractive to hold bonds or debt instruments in that currency, there is a supply and demand issue. He continues, saying that a bond is just a promise to receive future currency. When you own a bond, you are buying a lot of money because that's what they have promised to give you. And they, the government, have the printer. So changes happen. According to Dalio, The creation of massive amounts of debt and monetizing it, printing money, usually precedes the decline of empires. China has a larger share of world trade than the US, for example. So we're in a fiat monetary system, incurring huge deficits that we're monetizing. Deficits produce obligations that have to be sold when there isn't enough demand for these securities. There will be a need for more debt monetization. When you don't have enough money and want to have more purchasing power, all countries throughout history create this debt and monetize it, and it has an impact. It has an inflationary impact that we're experiencing now. It has an impact on the value of money, he said, warning of a global and economic crisis. Increasing the number of securities makes the money worth less when they wake up to this, and they're waking up to it now, so they sell that security. And what this mechanically means is that the central bank enters, prints more money because they need to compensate people who are leaving, which creates more inflation, or they don't print the money. And when they don't print the money, then you have a debt crisis. The rise of China is a change in the world order. During the interview, Ray Dalio was asked about his generous or more sympathetic view of China and if he thinks the transfer of wealth is inevitable. Dalio responds that he knows China very well and knows its leaders as they're thinking and the moves they're making. I'm just trying to share what the perspective is because I think many people are making typical stereotypical moves. According to Dalio, the first thing people need to understand about China is that the country has been a notably successful place since the billionaire started his investments there in 1984. The per capita has increased 26 times, says Ray Dalio. For him, China is becoming an effective place to invest money. More than 40% of IPOs will be Chinese stocks on Chinese markets. According to Dalio, history shows us that there are certain patterns in the decline and ascent of empires: zero interest rate and more purchasing power, high debt index, printing of a lot of money leading to increased inflation, financial crisis, and large internal conflicts due to growing wealth and value gaps, external conflict between a rising great power and the leading great power, as is now happening with China and the United States. According to Dalio, the wealth gap today is the largest since the 1930s, and the world order we are in started in 1945. At the time, the United States represented 50% of the global economy and held 80% of the world's gold, so a dollar-based order was established. But as the dominant power weakens and other powers strengthen enough to challenge it, there will be more internal and external conflicts that lead to revolutionary changes in wealth and power. This marks the end of the old order and leads to the next new order, which is happening now. The financial collapse has already begun. Dalio predicts that the US dollar will weaken. This is one of the reasons why Dalio insists that money is trash. He believes it's more efficient to invest in stocks with an eye on diversification.